Oh, hello. This is not the standby.
And we're live.
We are so live.
Oh, there we are. Look at that sick new studio, my friend.
All right. We are live and we are ready to go. Alexis, great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're here. And I know we're excited to learn and jump in. The new studio looks great, by the way.
Is looking spicy.
We love to see it. Okay, you have slides to prepare, I assume.
I do. I have slides and I'm going to share it right now.
Amazing. I'll stay with you until then, and then I'll go off screen. And if we have some time at the end, we'll do some Q&A.
Okay.
Awesome. Take it away, Jay Klaus. You are the best.
Hey, everybody. Well, thanks for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed Alexis's opening talk. She covered a lot of ground and she gave me a wonderful tee into what I want to talk about today, which is designing your perfect revenue model, your offer ladder. She covered it to a small degree, and I think we're going to go a little bit deeper here. I'm going to open up my chat so I can see it. Awesome. So if you don't know me, my name is Jay, and I'm the founder of Creator Science, which is here to help you become a smarter creator, to help you earn more revenue from the attention that you are capturing through your publishing efforts. We have a podcast, we have a newsletter, we have a community, which I'll talk to you about, that runs on Circle. And previously, I was with the SPI team, helping them launch their original Circle community and run their cohort-based programs. But to start, I would love to hear in the chat, who here would identify as an educational creator? Or are you more of an entertainment creator? Let me know in the chat if you are more of a teacher, more of an entertainer, how you think about yourself, and the type of content that you publish. Both. Education, both, educational. Okay. Glad to see a lot of educational folks. That is typically where I land on the spectrum as well, and where a lot of folks in our community land. I think that educational creators are underrepresented in a lot of the narrative around the creator economy. So I'm glad to see it well represented here at the Creator Path Summit. I'd also love to hear who is already selling products. And if you are already selling products, what type of products are you selling currently? Well, I like Carol's answer of I am a connector. Lots of education, consulting services, art apparel. I love this chat. This is my first time using this feature within Circle. So this is really fun to see how this is working. Affiliate links, consulting, I'm not selling yet, coaching programs, cohort-based courses. Cool. Okay. Well, my goal here today is to help you walk away from this session with a lot more clarity around your revenue model and your offer ladder, how you actually monetize and grow your business from a revenue perspective. And don't worry, I will share the slides. I go through a lot of slides. I'm a very visual person, so you're going to see me with my clicker here, clicking around, flying through these slides. But I will share them at the end. And if you want to get ahead of it and open up the tab, the page to access those slides is right here. So I'll give you a second to click on that. I'm going to take a drink of water. But yeah, don't need to take notes if you don't want to, because you can access all of this after the fact. All right, moving on. My community, which runs on Circle, is called The Lab. It's a community of professional creators, so folks who are doing this full time, where they can experiment, learn, and grow together. It's much more on the connection side than the premium content side, although we do have a lot of courses and workshops and things inside the community. But that is The Lab, and as I'll show you here in a moment, The Lab is about 50% of my overall revenue as a creator. So it's a huge part of my business. And I think memberships and communities can be a huge part of your business as well. Since we launched the lab in January of 2022, the community itself has brought in over $1 million in revenue, which is exciting. I share this because I want to show you what is possible. And what I'm really more proud of is the fact that as membership has grown, as we've had more members come into the community, we've also seen an increase in active membership in the community. And anything that I look at in terms of communities, memberships, I'm really looking for like the health of that membership and how well it's trending. And I'm very pleased with what we've been able to do using Circle in the lab. And if you look at the numbers here, we have fewer than 350 members. And so a lot of people are surprised by the number of members that are in there versus the total revenue that you could have in your business. And that's what's so exciting about the world of memberships and creating a space where you provide value, connect people to each other, and give people true community. So it wasn't always like that, though. I'm a very transparent person. I think part of my role as an educator for creators is to share the good and the bad, the honest. And so if you look at my history as a creator, I've been doing this in some form or fashion since 2017. And the first 3 years in business, first 2 years especially, it was really like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I didn't know what to write about, what to publish about. I was kind of just sharing a public journal, but it was kind of unclear where I was going. And I sort of muddled around mostly with like consulting services and freelancing. If we look in 2019, actually, you can see that actually I had a reduction in overall revenue from the year before. So 2019 was a challenging year psychologically, because it's like, okay, everything is going well. Oops, let's take a step back. But then in that year, in 2019, I was also beginning to produce my own products, my own digital products. I started playing around with the idea of community. I was running essentially the equivalent of a cohort-based course back in 2019 and 2020. And you can see things started to pick up when I started focusing on building my own products once again. Then if we look forward to 2022, 2023, 2024, this is where you really start to see things pick up in my business on the content side. I started to get thoughtful about my revenue model, the way I was going about building things, and that had a net positive impact on the business as a whole. So again, I like sharing this whole journey because what I want to highlight here is I've been doing this for 8 years. There's a lot you learn the hard way. And hopefully by following folks like me and other creators in the space that have been doing it for a long time, you can miss some of the potholes that I drove straight into. But also, if you've been doing this for a year or 2 years and you're struggling, I just want to show you that I did the same and it's okay. You can get through it. You can come out on the other side. So if you're at the session, you may be wondering, what is a revenue model exactly? What are these sort of academic terms that you're using, Jay? I think of your revenue model as how money actually happens in your business. The entire portfolio of revenue streams coming into the business and bringing income into your bank account. The whole of that is your revenue model. And I would bucket this into 2 different categories. The first one being direct offers. These are your products and services that you sell directly to your audience. Things like digital products, coaching, physical products. And then there are indirect offers, which are third-party products and services that you promote to your audience. Things like advertising, sponsorships, affiliates. Neither is right or wrong necessarily. And my recommendation is to include all of that. You know, have direct offers, have indirect offers. But my recommendation is to focus more on the direct offers, the things that you sell directly to your audience, rather than the indirect offers, because that gives you a little bit more control over your revenue, the sustainability of your business. And you can think of your indirect offers, things like advertising, sponsorship, affiliates, as kind of like bonus money, found revenue. Most creators are over-indexed on the indirect offers, in my experience. They think the best way to monetize attention is by selling that attention to a third-party brand or sponsor. But I really think the opportunity, especially for educational creators like us, or like a lot of people here, is to focus on direct offers first. It is easier for educational creators to do this, I will say. It's a slight caveat I would give. If you are more of an entertainment or lifestyle creator, it is slightly more difficult to focus on direct offers rather than indirect offers. So I'm going to break down my revenue model here to show you all the factors that are at play in my revenue model. And feel free to ask questions as we go here in the chat. I do have the chat open, so I might pause and address some of them from time to time. I saw a question from Leslie or a comment from Leslie that is interesting to see that expenses can be $500,000. And in my reporting of expenses, if we were to go back, maybe it's not even worth going back. If we look at this reporting of expenses, what I include in my expenses are my wages and my wife. My wife and I are both full-time W-2 employees of the company. So our wages, including our savings for retirement, are captured here in expenses. So as you see expenses climb, a lot of that is my own compensation. And so the gap here that you see between gross income, expenses, and net income, that is after compensation to my wife and I and the entire team. All right, so let's break down my revenue model here. If you look at the whole of our revenue last year, which is about $830,000, memberships through the lab represented 51% of that revenue. Digital products, which are separate one-off products from the membership, those represented 24% of revenue. Sponsorships were 17% of revenue. Affiliate revenue was 4%, royalties 4%, and then consulting was 1%. If we look at these breaking down by whether they are direct or indirect streams of revenue, memberships I classify as direct revenue, digital products, direct revenue, sponsorship, indirect, affiliate, indirect, royalties, indirect. You can make an argument that could go either way. And then consulting is direct. So if you total those things together, direct revenue accounts for 3/4 of the revenue in our business, and indirect is about 1/4 of our business. And I like that design. My goal every year is to increase top line revenue in both categories. And whether the proportion changes, I don't necessarily care as long as both are still. Okay, so let's break down how the business plan for creators generally looks. I think it's worth getting kind of specific here. Basically, if you're a content creator, the model is you create great free content for a specific customer avatar, a specific type of consumer. Typically, you are publishing this content through what I call discovery platforms. These are platforms that have an algorithm involved. They are matching great content to consumers for the purpose of keeping consumers on that platform. So we're talking about social media, YouTube, predominantly. Your goal through this content is to develop a relationship with those consumers. And in aggregate, this is what is referred to as an audience, right? People who are consuming your content that you have started to build a relationship with. I really like the distinction. I talked to Nathan Barry about this at Kit. I really like the distinction of audience versus crowd. Some creators are really great at drawing a crowd, but I wouldn't necessarily refer to that as an audience. To me, an audience is a group of people who show up specifically for you because they want to hear from you. And with a lot of discovery platforms, you're in the interruption business where you're basically trying to draw a crowd. And hopefully some of those people say, I really liked this thing that I got pulled into, and they become part of your audience. But don't confuse the ability to momentarily grab somebody's attention with the ability to continuously command their attention. People that you can continue to attract and pull in their attention, that is what I would refer to as your audience. The goal, in my opinion, with discovery platforms is actually to create a bridge from these algorithmic platforms where you don't own the distribution to what I call your relationship platforms. That would be email, podcasting, SMS, and private communities, places where you reliably can communicate with that person without a third-party intermediary getting in the way. So the thing I like to say is the purpose of social media is to reduce your dependence on social media. You want to be so good at getting attention that you can then kind of direct that attention towards a platform you have more control over. Circle, a community is a great place for that. But I also encourage every creator to make email part of your core model. And whether you're directing people from your discovery platforms or your relationship platforms, you want to direct that attention towards your revenue model. That is how this works. You create great free content. You develop a relationship with the people who are consuming it. You direct that attention towards your revenue model. And ideally, typically, a lot of that directing towards your revenue model is through relationship platforms, email, podcast, SMS, private communities, just because that is going to be more long-term reliable, more long-term sustainable. So if you just think about that, there are a lot of things to make in that model, right? This is 4 bullet points, but to follow this model, we're talking about a lot of stuff, a lot of assets that you have to create. You have to create interesting content on discovery platforms, maybe daily. I'm publishing daily on X, LinkedIn, Instagram, daily. You have to have useful content on relationship platforms. I publish 2 email newsletters per week. I publish 1 long form audio podcast per week. I try to publish a video per week, but it's more like 2 or 3 videos per month. Then within your paid offers, you're also probably creating some content there. It would be really interesting. I'm actually going to take a second to pull up this number because I think this is really interesting. I'm going into the lab right now. I'm pulling up my profile and I'm looking at how many posts and how many comments I have made in the lab, my membership community, since I started it in January of 2022. I would actually love for you to guess. This is a fun game. How many posts do you think I have made in the lab since we started it? Give your guess. Say posts, guess. Or if you'd rather guess comments, you can guess the comments guess. Because this is content. Make no mistake. The way you show up in your community, that is content. That is effort. That is on par with your social media content, your newsletter content. All right, see these guesses roll in. Oh, we got Tyler in the house. What's up, Tyler? Okay, seeing a wide range here. Okay, you guys are very generous. Pedro is the closest so far. Love this. This is very fun for me. Wow, these are huge guesses. Okay, I thought I was posting a ton. Maybe I'm posting a little bit less than you thought, but I think I post a ton. So the answer, 704 posts, 5,581 comments. And a lot of the comments are, multi-paragraph comments. So, you do the math. This is a lot of content just within your paid offers. A lot of content on a daily basis or weekly basis. Then you have promotional content talking about your paid offers. So if we look at these 4 bullets, just look at the amount of stuff that a creator has to make for the model to go. Just think about that. It is a lot of creation. So here's a common mistake that I see a lot of creators making. They focus on these 2 bottom bullets more than anything else. They create most of their content within their paid offers or promoting their paid offers. And if you're ignoring these top 2 bullets, the top of funnel, interesting content on discovery platforms, or the value add, standalone, useful content in your discovery or your relationship platforms, audience growth is likely to slow down or plateau because you're not bringing new people into the audience. If you're just focusing on the content within your paid offers, promotional content about your paid offers, then audience growth is going to slow down. And when audience growth slows down, you think, maybe I should build a new product. Because when audience growth slows down, the way you often feel that is revenue slows down. And you think, maybe I should build a new product and launch it to my audience. When you do that, that's more time you're putting into producing a new paid offer and the promotional content within that paid offer. It's not actually solving the initial real problem. And so audience growth will slow down and plateau once again. And you end up with this growing, disjointed set of products because you're just thinking, what is the next thing I can build? What is the new thing I can launch? And I get it. But the result is a downward spiral where you're not solving this audience growth problem. And without solving audience growth to some degree, you will likely see a slow degrade in revenue growth. So if we look at this 3-year period, when I started building my own products, I was in this cycle. I was doing the thing where I would launch a product and it would go pretty well. And I thought, that was awesome. I should launch another product. And so I'd launch another product and that would do pretty well. And I think, wow, I have figured this out. When I launch a new product, I make more money. I should launch new products. So I'd launch another product and another product and another product and another product. You know, this was my journey during this 3-year period, was launching all of these distinct, discrete courses, workshops. And in the moment, this felt awesome because launches result in new revenue. And you think, this is the way, this is figuring it out. But if you look at it from the macro, you end up with all of these disjointed products that don't map together. People are a little bit confused what you stand for, what they should know you for, how they should refer you, what exactly they should expect from you, because you have all these products all over the board. You know, if we look back at my example, I had a product about podcasting. I had a product about newsletters. I had 2 products. Actually, 3 of these products are about community/memberships. And then I had my own membership itself. So it's just hard for people to know, what is Jay truly about? What is he actually the best source of information for? What is he the best teacher of? The solution to this problem is an offer ladder. It's your product suite, your revenue model. The solution is, instead of having a smattering of unrelated products, creating an intentional step-by-step journey that's aligned with the overall premise of your business. Okay. Instead of this random smattering of products, you have this very clear step-by-step linear progression, taking people from point A to point D, Z, whatever number makes sense for your product ladder. So where do you start? Because if you have a list of some number of products at the end, where should you start? To me, you start with your premise. This is a term I've really, really come to love. I think it really answers some fundamental questions about how you should operate as a creator. A lot of people in the space will say, you know, you need to niche down, you need to find your niche. And to me, the word niche suggests a unique audience. It's like saying, I do this specific thing for this specific group of people. And I understand why the advice exists, because when you're in a position like I am, where you're talking to people at varying stages of the journey, saying find your niche is not necessarily inaccurate. I just think it's incomplete and leads people down the wrong path sometimes, because especially as more and more people enter the creator space, finding your niche, niching down, becomes an exercise in finding an increasingly small target audience, which I think is a problem. You know, you end up saying things like, I create content for single dads in Iowa who love Lego. Like, that's a niche, but it's so specific that you really box yourself in, and the total addressable market is pretty small. So I prefer the term premise, because when you say premise, it's as if you go to somebody and you say, hey, have you watched White Lotus? The first question out of somebody's mouth, if the answer is not yes, is, what's it about? That's the question. When you say, have you watched this thing, or have you read this book? Have you listened to this podcast? And the person on the other end hasn't, they will say, what is it about? The answer to the question, what is it about, is your premise. And your premise is a unique perspective that can be on an overall larger market, right? I teach creators. Creators are basically online business owners. A lot of people in the world help online business owners. So I don't niche down to a specific small type of creator. I just overlay my own unique perspective and my own emphasis on analytics, being data-driven, focusing on conversion and revenue instead of new attention. So, you know, I think the niche down idea pushes people into really small boxes, and I would encourage you to think about your premise first. So how do you do that? Your premise answers the question, what's that about? It should be pretty short and memorable. And I like to think of it as this triumvirate of the intersection of legible, compelling, and differentiated. Legible means it's easy to understand and easy to explain to somebody else. If you say, I help people lose weight, that's extremely legible. We know exactly what you're saying with that. On the other hand, if you say something like, I help people become the best versions of themselves, that's a lot less legible. I have more questions from that statement than answers, right? So if you struggle to answer the question, what do you do? You're struggling with legibility. If you answer that question and you're met with like confusion and blank stares, I think you struggle with legibility. Compelling. Compelling to me is the part of your premise that makes your target eyes light up. As soon as they hear it, they want to know more about what you're saying. If you say, I help people lose weight without changing their diet, that's a compelling premise. That makes me feel like, ooh, these are things that I want. I do want to lose weight, but I'm also kind of stubborn. I don't want to change my diet. Help me understand more about that. You've got my attention. If you struggle to get people to get excited about your work, if they understand it, but they're not excited, to me, that's struggling to be compelling. And then lastly is differentiated. How are you different from the alternatives? If you're not niching down and picking a very specific slice of people, how do you differentiate when approaching an existing competitive marketplace? So a differentiated premise feels fresh and new. It's what turns a compelling premise into a must-have situation. Not only do we want it, but you are the only person that can deliver it to us. Continuing with the weight loss example, diet fads are often defined by their differentiation. No carbs, no animal protein. Competitive markets require differentiation. Otherwise, we will choose on price or convenience, speed, things like that. So if you can't get people to take action or you're losing business to competitors, you're probably not differentiated enough. And if you think about this as a Venn diagram, this overlap here. And I wrote a whole essay about this if you want to dig deeper into this or mark it later. It's at creatorscience.com/premise. But you want to be in the center here of legible, differentiated, and compelling. You can see if you have two of the three, there's a core problem that you'll feel. If you're legible and compelling, but not differentiated, you'll feel like you're just operating in a competitive market. If you're compelling and differentiated, but not legible, nobody seems to understand what you do. If you're differentiated and legible, but not compelling, nobody cares, right? It's when you're in the center that the magic happens. I'm going to take a quick pause there, grab a drink of water. All right. Hopefully this isn't too in the weeds for you guys. Let me know how I'm doing, if this is landing with you and you're enjoying it. Okay, let's keep going. So when you have an effective premise, the goal should be that you own an idea in the minds of your audience. Not just the audience, you start to own an idea in the mind of the market. You have Mindshare. Some examples of people who have done this really well. James Clear with habits. Brene Brown with vulnerability. Ryan Holiday with stoicism. Cal Newport with deep work. And Laura Lecomte, which you'll hear about later today, with mindful productivity. It doesn't have to be a single word. It can be an outcome, which is totally fine. Cody Sanchez helps people buy cash flowing businesses. Stu McLaren helps people build membership businesses. Johnny Miller helps you master your nervous system. Tiago Forte helps you build a second brain. And Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, helps you. His idea is this: 10x is easier than 2x. Or Oliver Berkman, 40,000 weeks. Is it 4,000 weeks? I guess it needs some work in my mind still. I came to this knowledge too late. I hope you learn from my mistake. What I was able to do effectively was build an association with the identity of creators. So a lot of time when people talk about the creator economy, they talk about who can help creators. I come up. But it's not as useful to be associated with like an identity of person as it is an interest or an outcome, in my opinion. So still some work to be done on that front for me. I was going to give us 3 minutes to do this exercise, but I'm actually just going to bring it up on the screen and let you screenshot it. Or again, you can go to creatorscience.com/creatorpath, get the slides, do this exercise later. But I think it's really helpful to work through these questions of who do you help? Who is actually your customer? What outcome do you deliver for that customer? Either a problem solved or a desire that you help them achieve. How is your perspective different than others who offer the same thing? What do you believe that others do not? What common belief do you disagree with? These are good prompts to help you think down these lines. And if you're known for delivering one single outcome, if you're only delivering one outcome, and that's what you're known for, what would that be? Think of a specific problem, a specific desire that comes up in conversation with your core audience, and work towards being known for delivering that thing. I'll run you through my answers as you think through this. Who do I help? I help content creators. What outcome do I deliver? I help you earn a comfortable living through content creation. How is my perspective different than others who offer the same thing? I really try to emphasize efficiency, especially in terms of conversion. How do you convert more of the attention that you reach into paying customers? I'm a little bit more comprehensive with the advice that I give. A lot of people will get really specific of, you should do a course, you should do a community, you should do templates. But I really like to help people identify decision criteria instead of creating a one-size-fits-all approach for what I recommend. And I'm also really trying to show people what you can do as a stay-at-home parent, stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home mom. I've built my whole life to operate this business from my basement, this beautiful studio in my basement. We finished my basement to build it, and I don't fly to a ton of places and do a ton of events. I really want to show people that being a creator opens up a lot of possibilities, even if you never leave your house. If I were to be known for one outcome, what would it be? Helping creators earn more. That's it. I think there are a lot of people who teach you how to capture more attention better than I do. I think my superpower is helping creators earn more. All right. So let's move this forward into our offer ladder. I've laid a lot of groundwork here. How does this apply to the topic here of your offer ladder? And Regina, thank you so much for the kind note in the chat here. Really appreciate that. So if you go back to this diagram of several posts here, or several circles, here is how I would lay this out. Alexa's had a very similar diagram, which is said free ticket, low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket. I think of it this way most of the time: a lead magnet, gateway offer, signature product, advanced offer, but we're talking about the same things, right? I personally really recommend starting with what I call your signature product. It's a little bit further down the line. It may not end up being the last product in your product stack. It may be second to last, but this is where I would start. After you have your signature product, then I would go back and create a lead magnet. Then from there, you can either create your advanced offer or your gateway offer. You could start either way. Something that goes after the signature product or before, totally fine. But really, you can go a long way just by having one single signature product. As I showed you in my revenue earlier, the lab, half of my overall revenue. I could really just run this whole business by making the lab better and better. And that's what my focus is this year. So if we look at your signature product delivers that one outcome that you explored in that last exercise. If you were to be known for one outcome, what would that be? Your signature product should be your most direct, linear way to deliver that outcome. If you think about your business as a creator, your overall premise, if you're known for, as a creator, delivering a specific outcome, your signature product should be the most efficient way for you to deliver that outcome to your audience. A great signature product can actually attract customers and grow your brand. When you have built a signature product that is so good that people get an outcome, people talk about it, and it actually becomes top of funnel for you. But most people don't build a good enough product or invest in it long enough to make it good enough that it actually starts to attract customers. So they find that they have this top of funnel problem because it's not attracting people to them, because it's just not a good enough product yet. But the more you invest time into making your signature product great, the more you will actually attract customers to you with that product. Some examples of this: Ship 30 for 30. That was a great product. It actually brought people to the product. Building a second brain. Tiago Forte told me that it wasn't until cohort 10 that he really felt like he hit his stride with building a second brain. How many people doing cohort-based courses give up before they hit their 10th version of it. Almost all of them. Notion Mastery, another example of a high-ticket hybrid program. Rite of Passage, Alexis mentioned David Perel in an earlier session. He ran that, I think, more than 12 times. I mentioned Johnny earlier with Nervous System Mastery. That has picked up steam as he's continued to run that one cohort, that one product. Ali Abdal's Part-Time YouTuber Academy, that was a juggernaut for a period of time, and I think still could be if they wanted to just focus solely on that. A signature product likely isn't going to be priced as a low ticket offer. For most folks, a low ticket offer requires volume to give you a large financial outcome. It's just math. It's just numbers. A low ticket product will require a lot of customers to have the same financial impact as a high ticket product having fewer customers. It's just math. So if you start with a signature product, I think it's going to be a little bit higher priced than some of the lower ticket products you could create. But again, I want to emphasize that a signature product is truly all you need to build a seven-figure business. I think most people actually diversify too early, and they don't make their signature product good enough to generate word of mouth and draw people into the business. And you end up with that random smattering of products that I was showing you earlier. So if we think about the delivery model of a signature product, there are three typical delivery models. Done for you, which requires minimal input from the customer. The idea is you give me a little bit of your information, customer, and I'm going to do the process for you. Done with you, where the majority of the work is done by the customer, but support is available from the provider. And do it yourself, where all the work is done by the customer and you just provide materials and instructions and they just run with it, right? One is not better than another, but some are harder to achieve for your particular outcomes that you're trying to deliver. Customers will also have preferences, so some customers, they want to pay to have the outcome done and have the least input possible. They want a done for you service. They want to pay more money, have little outcome. Some customers don't have a lot of money to invest, so they want the cheapest option that gives them enough information to do it themselves. So if we think about your offer ladder, you could think about it this way. You could think about it as maybe I map my do-it-yourself, done with you, done for you offers to that offer ladder. In that case, your signature product is probably going to be a done with you type of product. So if we look at these options, I'm going to put them all on the screen here because I know I'm running a little bit long. Here are different types of products you could offer for these different delivery mechanisms. I mentioned your signature product is likely going to be in the done with you camp. And so options there are productized services, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, live learning experiences like a cohort-based course, or low-touch services, a membership, a high-ticket hybrid. The lab is a done with you type of product. A lot of the work still is on the hands of the customers who are in there. I'm trying to provide teaching, connection, support on the journey, but I'm not doing all the things that need to be done for each of those members. It's not a done for you service. It would be hard to have a membership that's a true done for you delivery model. A lot of communities that are more on the premium content side lean more on the do-it-yourself model. Here's templates, here are self-paced courses, here's checklists, things like that. So once you do the done with you type of product, if you choose your signature product to be in the done with you category, from there, you can either go earlier in the product offer ladder of offering a done for you service, later in the product offer of doing a done for you service, or earlier with the do it yourself option. If you start here, you can go in either direction as your next step. The question is, do you want to go deeper with your current customers or build your customer base? If you start at the signature product, you want to go deeper with your current customers, you build the product after the signature product. If you want to build your customer base, you go earlier than the signature product, something that leads into your signature product. Generally, I find that going up market first is smart from a revenue and positioning perspective. The example I like to give here, and actually I borrow this from my friend Jay Akunzo, it's more likely that we want to buy a more price-friendly product from a luxury provider later, then we would buy a luxury product from a cheaper provider. The example would be if Rolex released a watch that was cheaper and easier for more people to afford, a lot of people would buy that. If Temu released a luxury watch, probably fewer people would buy that, right? So the more down market you go, the more do it yourself, the more hands off your business is, the more leverage that income is. So I understand the draw towards it, but it requires a lot of volume. Alexis, I know I'm a little bit long, so I think I'm just going to cut to the end here and
take your time. Don't rush through it. People are loving it.
Okay. Well, I'll try to wrap up here because we're close. So if I look at my offer ladder and the goal, the thing that I want to deliver ultimately is more revenue for creators, then how do I line up my products? The lab is positioned here as my signature product. It's a done with you product. I have several lead magnets, email-based course. I have my entire gear list. If you go to creatorscience.com/toolbox, all of my gear is listed there. I have a swipe file of product ideas at creatorscience.com/revenue. Those are my lead magnets. I have a do-it-yourself self-paced product called Creator HQ. That is a Notion template. It's my entire operating system. Everything that runs Creator Science, I use Notion to run the business, and I productized it, templatized it into something called Creator HQ. And that is a precursor to the lab. A lot of people buy Creator HQ first, have a great experience, builds trust. They say, okay, if this was this good, I bet the membership is even better. I don't have an offer that's upstream of the lab right now. To this point, basically, if you join the lab, you get everything I have. And everything new that I create, the lab gets it as part of their membership. There's a world where I might create a product upstream, maybe a mastermind or something. Or maybe the lab goes to be the end of my offer ladder, and there's something else that sits before the lab and becomes another feeder into the community. So an exercise I'll give you here to start to close us out is design your ideal offer ladder, seeing everything we've shared here. What product format will your signature product take? Which order do you think you'll roll them out? If you already have several products, what could you combine? What can you cut? Over the last 12 months, I've actually unpublished several paid products. They're still available in the lab, but I realize it's a lot more legible for people to understand my signature product is the lab. And inside the lab, wonders and riches. So just a treasure trove of things. But I don't want to confuse people by having too many products. So I've actually started unpublishing some of these products. And then that's kind of interesting because I can leverage them as incentives and bonuses and things. So if you have several products already, you might want to consider combining some of them, removing some of them, because I truly believe having a simpler product ladder is worthwhile. So that is the end. I mentioned this product swipe file. If you go to creatorscience.com/revenue, I've collected hundreds of different products here. I've categorized them by the different delivery mechanisms that I've shared with you: digital products, memberships, cohort-based courses. So you can search for examples of creator products in all of these different categories. And this is totally free. This is just a Notion swipe file. Great. If you want to connect with me, here's how you can do it at creatorscience.com/creatorpath. You'll get all of these slides. I also have a couple of offers and goodies for you there if you want them. So the QR code will go there. The URL will go there. And that is it.
Hello. Sorry,
Hello.
I had to refresh my screen. The chat was going off so much that I had to do a little refresh. Jay, that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was like
Thank you.
In depth, and I love where you went with like premise and compelling, and I loved all of it. Do you have time for like a couple questions while I bring our panelists to stage?
I do. Okay. I can hang out.
Amazing. So some questions in the question box area. is, okay. I love this question around Spotlight. Can you expand on what a productized service and high ticket hybrid is?
I sure can. And I'm going to
take off the stand.
Let's go into the cozier vibe. This is the Q&A session of the presentation. So high ticket hybrid is actually a phrase that I learned from Mariah Cause. She's a great creator as well. The idea of a high ticket hybrid is it's not as time bound and intense as a cohort based course. It's more time bound though than a perpetual always on membership. So the design of that is typically like, hey, we are going to have this kind of intense teaching experience on the front end, or maybe we have a self-paced course inside the community that you have access to, but you have access to the space then for, call it 12 months. And so it's like a 12-month program that has varying degrees of intensity. It feels a little bit like a membership, but it's also oriented more around a specific discrete outcome. Whereas a membership, really the design of an ideal membership is, in my opinion, there's a reason that it should recur into perpetuity. Like you never quite reach an absolute goal, because if that's true, then there's no reason to renew. Yeah. And so the other question was productized service. Productized service is more like, if I helped you build a website and the idea was like, I'm the service provider. The service I provide is a website for you. A productized version of that service would be like saying, the website's going to include these specific pages. It's this specific price. Here is the exact process I need. Whereas a non-productized service is a little bit more bespoke and personalized to you. The idea of a productized service is basically you've already delivered a service a bunch of times. You've seen the patterns. You increase the efficiency of delivering that service by making as much of it consistent and automated as possible.
Thank you so much for going in depth. And then there was another question around the average income or profession of your members in the lab. And for whatever you feel comfortable sharing, there was, we're going to know a little bit of the demographic of the member, and then I'll bring Kelsey to stage and we can wrap up. You're the best.
You know what's awesome, Alexis? And you can share this with your product team if you want. I have custom fields set up in Circle. So when people join, they share a bunch of information about themselves, so that I can understand my members really well. I can export a CSV from Circle and then give that to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you help me analyze my membership based on these fields? So I just did this last week. The average revenue on a monthly basis is a little more than $29,000 according to that data. And it's not perfect reporting. I don't have data for all 200 something members, but for those that I do, that's the average. And they're full-time content creators. They are publishing full-time. They are monetizing with courses and memberships, predominantly sponsorship as well. I'd say about 30% of folks are running cohort-based programs. So it's not getting started. It's not a hobby. This is their full-time thing.
I love it. Anything else you want to add or questions in the chat while I work on bringing Kelsey to stage?
Let me see. I'll stop sharing my screen as well, and maybe that will help in some way. Our signature product is our community for high school basketball players who want to play in college and their parents. We have 5 lead magnets. One is comprehensive, an 18-page assessment, which has been downloaded about 400 times. I wanted to turn it into a Notion template and possibly sell it. I'm not sure if anyone would buy that, as they have no idea what Notion is. That is a good question. One of the biggest challenges I have with Creator HQ is if you don't use Notion, you don't have the interest in using Notion, people aren't going to buy a Notion product. So I've had to be very specific on the sales page that this is built in Notion. And if you don't know what that is, then it's probably not a good fit. I would personally, if you don't need to use Notion, I would try to make it in a different form factor than Notion for this exact reason. Something that's built in like Google Docs or Google Sheets is going to be more accessible to more people.
Thank you so much. You are the best. Thanks for answering some additional questions as we brought our panelists to stage. Give it up for Jay in the chat. And if you took Any like big nugget away from him, drop it in the chat so he can read it later. I also texted you some really sweet screenshots already, Jay, of all the nice things people were saying about you.
I love that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you, Circle. And excited to stick around and see Kelsey's presentation and Kaylin and Jean as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.